The stars had always seemed distant, cold, silent sentinels of a universe too vast to touch. That illusion shattered the day the sky opened. It began with static. Every screen, every frequency, every orbital relay on Earth went blind at precisely 2:14 Universal Time Coordinated. Commercial flights grounded mid-air, military satellites blinked into silence, and digital clocks froze, all in the span of a heartbeat. The blackout lasted only 17 seconds, but when the world blinked back to life, it did so in panic. Across every active device, a single image remained, a shifting cascade of geometric symbols, glowing in a color that defied categorization. Neither green nor blue, but something ancient and electric. Beneath the symbols was a voice. No words, just a hum, low and resonant, that somehow rang inside bones rather than ears. Colonel Nadia Vostrikov stood on the observation deck of the Horizon Defense Array, a floating fortress tethered to Earth's exosphere, her eyes locked on the shimmering line of stars above the Indian Ocean. She had seen war, the crumbling of regimes, orbital skirmishes over dwindling resources, the silent deaths in cold vacuum, but never anything like this. Around her, technicians and AI interfaces scrambled to decode the message, while military analysts speculated and bickered behind glass. "Ma'am," a voice called. Lieutenant Ray Akeda, her aide, hurried across the deck, tablet in hand. Spectral readings confirm origin. It's not from the solar system. Trajectory puts it just beyond the Oort cloud. But whatever it is, it's coming. "How long?" she asked, voice even, but her fingers tightening on the railing betrayed the tension beneath. 6 days. Maybe less. They're not hiding. No one slept that night. Or the next. Earth was still reeling from a message when the first objects pierced through Jupiter's shadow. They didn't decelerate or attempt orbit. They came fast, in formation, trailing fire like ancient gods descending in fury. 7 massive vessels, each the size of a small continent, arrayed in a wedge and bearing hulls that shimmered with runes. Cameras caught them clearly, and still, people doubted, because believing meant accepting that humanity was no longer alone, and perhaps never had been. At the United Strategic Response Center in Geneva, world leaders met behind armored doors. The room was a battlefield of suits and uniforms, of cool glances and clutch data pads. At its center stood Director Elias Nuru of the Global Conflict Authority, a man who had negotiated peace during the Pacific Water Wars and commanded the orbital blockade of Venus. But even he looked aged beyond his years in the flickering light of alien footage. "They've made no aggressive moves yet," Nuru began, "but they refused all contact. No return signals, no translation patterns, nothing. And they've entered low orbit. Our satellites show weapons. Dozens. Some we don't understand." General Roth of the North American Command leaned forward. "We don't wait. We send up the Atlas line now. Full strength. If they're here to posture, we meet posture with steel." Prime Minister Anika Banerjee of the Indian Continental Alliance shook her head. "And if they're here in peace, we'd be lighting the match that starts the fire. We're not negotiating from under barrel of the gun," Roth snapped. Nuru raised a hand. "Enough. The Atlas line is launching. Defensive posture only. We won't strike first." In orbit, the ESS Dauntless awakened, one of Earth's most advanced warships. She was angular, hulking, a predator of dark alloy and quantum armor. Alongside her, 4 sister ships flared to life, each a carrier of terrifying firepower and artificial minds designed for coordinated fleet warfare. The Atlas line was Earth's shield, its last resort and its best-kept secret. Born in shadow, funded by all nations under Project Archangel, it was a united front against threats terrestrial or beyond. Captain Kalen Becky paced the bridge of the Dauntless, eyes scanning the tactical overlays like composers studying sheet music. His crew, handpicked and bound by neural links to the ship's systems, moved with practiced calm. At his right stood Ava Chun, chief systems architect, and the mind behind the ship's adaptive AI, Juno. "Their formations haven't changed," Ava said quietly, "still maintaining altitude at 3,000 kilometers. But our scans can't penetrate their hulls." Kalen nodded. "Any comms?" Juno's tried 47 variations of linguistics and symbolic data. No reply. No responsive frequency, light, or code. Kalen stared at the alien vessels projected before him. Shapes too smooth to be mechanical, too ornate to be entirely functional. They hover like statues carved from dark glass and coiled metal, their hulls etched with pulsing runes. Weapons bristled from their flanks, though none pointed toward Earth. "Then we wait," he said, "and pray they're just watching." But the peace, if it could be called that, didn't last. On day 4, an unmanned relay drone, tasked with scanning the alien fleet at safe distance, crossed the threshold. No warning. A beam of light lands from one of the ships, disintegrating the probe in a flash of blue. No radiation, no debris. Just gone. Panic swept through the command chain. In the skies, Earth's fleet repositioned. On the ground, protests and riots surged across megacities. Conspiracy theories bred like wildfire. That Earth had provoked the aliens, that the ships were judgment for Earth's crimes, or that humanity had been ruled by them all along. In the chaos, something shifted. Public fear became resolve. In survival, a kind of unity took root. In the shadows of the Mediterranean Sea, beneath a city buried by time, a chamber stirred. A council of minds, once fractured by borders, convened in digital silence. They called themselves a continuum, a black-budget initiative born after the first anomalous signal was intercepted 20 years prior. They had always feared this day would come. Now it had. A voice spoke in the dark. Activate solar lands. Nadia stood once more in orbit, watching the alien ships with her arms crossed and her thoughts spiraling. Around her, the Atlas line gleamed, fully powered and in formation. For all their technology, for all their unity, humanity was still standing in the shadow of something it didn't understand. "Do you think they're here to conquer?" Ray asked, voice low. She didn't answer right away. Instead, she watched as a second fleet of alien vessels blinked into orbit, silently joining the first. No declaration. No war cry. "No," she said at last. "I think they already have." In that moment, a deep resonance echoed across every frequency. This time not a symbol, but a message. One word, one voice, spoken in every language at once. "Yield." The silence that followed was total. And just like that, humanity stood at the threshold of war, not because it wanted to fight, but because to kneel was unthinkable. The hangar beneath Olympus Mons shuddered as turbines kicked into full thrust, heat haze warping the air around the sleek, black holes of Earth's hidden warships. Project Solar Lands, classified above even the Atlas line, was no longer a contingency. It was necessity. Colonel Nadia Vostrikov walked with purpose along the gantry, her boots echoing over titanium plating as she approached the command deck. The War Council's directive had been clear. Reveal solar lands, deploy deterrence, avoid direct engagement, if possible. But she knew better. Earth was already at war. The aliens just hadn't fired first in the way humans recognized. Solar Lands vessels were unlike any in Earth's known registry, forged in deep orbit, wrapped in stealth plating scavenged from Lunarex, and powered by singularity drives. They were the outcome of decades of clandestine research. At their core, each ship housed a synthetic intelligence paired with a human neural pilot. Symbiotic, brutal, and efficient. In the center of the chamber stood Commander Alexei Muranov, tall, gaunt, and unsettlingly still. He had piloted the first prototype during the black trials above Europa, and his mind bore the strain of it. Shadows under his eyes, a tremor in his left hand that never left. Yet he remained Earth's sharpest weapon. "We're late," he said without turning. "We're precise," Nadia replied. He exhaled, a ghost of a smile on his lips. They brought more ships into orbit. 6 new signatures. Same energy signatures, but they're smaller, scouts, maybe, or weapons platforms. And us, ready. He handed her a tablet. Launch orders are signed. Mission designation, Veil Protocol. We break cloak just outside Mars' orbit and form a defensive pincer. If they respond, we hold. If they attack, then we show them Earth is not prey. Aboard the SLV Talon, the interface chamber pulsed with bioluminescent circuits as Alexei reclined into the neural rig. Cool blue tendrils latched onto his spine, wrists, and temples, threading into the synaptic ports beneath his skin. The ship's AI, Nocturne, whispered into his mind as they aligned. "Hello, Alexei." It cooed, voice genderless and old. "Let's dance." Within seconds, his consciousness stretched across the vessel. He could feel the flex of hull plates like muscles, sense the rotation of rail cannons as if they were limbs. The intimacy between pilot and machine was unsettling, perfect. It made him less human. And more. At the Martian horizon, the solar land ships broke cloak. 5 of them, fanning out in a wide arc with Talon at the center. They were met immediately by alien movement. 3 of the smaller vessels detached from the main formation and began a slow advance. "Contact in 3 minutes," Nocturne informed, highlighting the vector paths. "No weapons locks yet, but they're comms." "What about them?" "They're not broadcasting. They're listening." Back on Earth, Nadia observed from the horizon array as data fed into command interface. The alien ship's behavior was erratic, always just enough to provoke fear, never enough to justify retaliation. A chess game played without visible pieces. "They're baiting us," Ray murmured at her side. "No," she said. "They're measuring us." "Then what do we do?" She hesitated. "Then we give them a false read." In orbit, Alexei's ship began to spin slowly, maneuvering into a faint vector. The others followed suit, shifting into an aggressive posture, but stopped just short of full engagement. It was a move designed for misinterpretation, forcing the aliens to reveal tactical intent. They took the bait. A beam of pure energy lands from one of the alien ships, skimming just above Talon's dorsal hull. Not a direct strike. An intimidation shot. Alexei gritted his teeth. "Authorization to respond?" he asked. "Negative." Nadia's voice echoed through the comms. "Hold position. They want us to fire." "What if they escalate?" "Then we escalate smarter." Within Talon, Nocturne shifted tone. "Alexei, they're scanning us. Deep scan. They found something." "What?" A pause. "The neural link. They recognize it. Or they fear it." In the millisecond that followed, everything changed. The alien ships began rapid acceleration, not away, but toward. Their formation contracted into a spearhead. Nadia issued the order immediately. Evasive Protocol Delta 5. Full disengagement. The solar land ship scattered, streaks of light flashing across the starscape. Alexei pulled hard left, his ship twisting through gravitational pockets only a post-human reflex could anticipate. Behind him, one of the scouts caught a lance vessel on its flank. It spun, exploded in silence. A crew of 48 gone in an instant. Fury welled in Alexei's throat. Nocturne surged with it. "Return fire is now permitted," Nadia said. The final line crossed. Talon, targeting solution. Locked. Fire. Twin spears of accelerated plasma cut through space. They slammed into the lead alien vessel, shearing off its port stabilizers. The ship spun out of formation, trailing shards of glowing metal. The others regrouped instantly, but they didn't press. They hovered again, pulsing with energy, as if recalculating. Then, one by one, they retreated, not in defeat, but in curiosity. Back in the neural chamber, Alexei slumped forward, blood dripping from his nose. His hand trembled again, worse now. Nocturne spoke softly. "They tested us. We passed." On the observation deck, Nadia stood in silence. Around her, the War Council watched the retreat with mixed expressions: relief, confusion, unease. "They weren't attacking," she murmured. "They were predicting." Ray turned. "Predicting what?" She met his eyes. "Our limits." The stars pulsed like distant heartbeats beyond the bridge of the Dauntless. Captain Kalen Becky stood in shadow, his eyes narrowed at the slowly widening gap where the alien fleet had once hung in Earth's orbit. Their retreat wasn't surrender, it was rehearsal. He could feel it, and that gnawed at something primal beneath his composed exterior. "They've fallen back to lunar dark side," Avachin reported, her fingers dancing over a holographic interface. "No aggressive maneuvers, but they've begun construction. Orbital scaffolds, hexagonal structures, possibly weapon arrays." possibly habitats. Kalen's silence lingered. He watched the data stream for signs of intention, but the enemy remained an enigma, too calculated to be alien in the way humanity had once imagined. They made no demands, voiced no ideology. They simply tested, calculated, adapted. Why the moon? Ray Ikeda asked from the lower command tier. Ava responded without looking up. Tactical. It's close enough to observe every inch of Earth, but shielded from direct bombardment. A forward base. And possibly a staging ground. Kalen folded his arms, jaw tightening. How long until they finish whatever they're building? Less than 4 days. Assuming exponential growth. He nodded once. We won't let it get that far. In the war room deep beneath Geneva, Nadia Vostrikov's voice reverberated through the chamber. She stood in front of projection of the moon, red tag with alien structures, and gestured to the expanding latticework of foreign tech. They're fortifying, she said. We still haven't translated their language, cracked their energy signatures, or mapped their internal schematics. But the pattern is clear. They are preparing for a prolonged presence, occupation, possibly domination. President Heron of the Pan-African Coalition tapped his knuckles on the armrest. So we strike now. Preemptive orbital assault, added General Roth. We deploy the Atlas line. Hit them before they become unmovable. And what if they respond with total annihilation? Banerjee countered, eyes narrowed. We've yet to see the full extent of their arsenal. They've already taken lives, Roth said, unmoved. That line's been crossed. Nadia exhaled slowly. The question isn't whether they're dangerous. It's whether they see us as equals or variables. Silence followed. No one had an answer. In low lunar orbit, the SLV Talon drifted silently just outside sensor range of the alien constructs. Alexei Muranov, still tethered to Nocturne, floated in the neural cradle, eyelids flickering as streams of fragmented thoughts passed between man and machine. Nocturne, he whispered, are they afraid of us? No, the AI answered, but they recognize the threat we pose. You, me, fusion of organic unpredictability and synthetic logic. They haven't seen it before. It disturbs their pattern recognition. Alexei let that settle. It wasn't comfort. It was warning. What do? We show them what it means to be unpredictable. As if summoned by thought, the proximity alarm pinged. 2 alien drones slipped from the structure's underside, elegant, glassy forms shaped more like sea creatures than machines. They moved silently, scanning, watching. Alexei stilled his breath. Nocturne recalibrated power signatures to mimic lunar background radiation. They watched the watchers. Time slowed. Suddenly, one of the drones turned sharply and began transmitting, not towards fleet, but toward the Talon. Encrypted signal, Nocturne noted, highly complex. But it's not just noise this time. Alexei leaned forward in the cradle. Is it language? Closer to mathematics. Fractal pulses. A pattern we've seen before, beneath Earth's oceans. Whale song, but digital. He stared at the alien shape, drifting closer on the view screen. They're trying to communicate? Or lure? The decision came fast. Open a return channel. Use Fibonacci structure. Let's see if they understand recursion. On Earth, Nadia monitored the transmission in real time. He's reaching out? She asked, astonished. Ava Chen's voice filtered through the comms. He's not speaking. He's composing. A signal they'd recognize as intelligent. Not threatening, but distinct. A long minute passed. Then another. Then the alien drone responded. An answer built upon Alexei's code. Faster this time. More intricate. They're accelerating the pattern, Nocturne whispered. Refining it. They want to see if we can keep up. And if we can't, they'll stop listening. Alexei closed his eyes, letting the neural flood surge. Numbers became emotion. Code became music. Somewhere within the drift of artificial stars and alien watchers, the beginning of understanding flickered. But then something changed. A third drone appeared, not slow, not curious. Aggressive. It fired a spike of energy, not at Talon, but into the transmitting drone. The drone shattered. A cascade of burning symbols exploded outward, one final burst of signal. A scream, perhaps, or a warning. They silenced it. Alexei murmured, cold forming in his chest. They didn't like what it was saying. Nocturne replied, voice dim. Earth Command exploded with alarms. Nadia's screen flashed red. What just happened? Ava Chen translated as data poured in. One of their own went rogue, and they killed it. Kaylin Becky's voice rang through the Crossfleet comms. That means dissent. They're not a unified force. They can fracture. Ray looked up sharply. Then maybe there's hope. Or maybe, Nadia said, turning from the screen, the real threat isn't what they are, but what's already dividing them. The conflict had changed. The enemy was not a monolith, and that meant the game had only just begun. The silence between the stars was deceptive. From high above the moon's far side, Earth's warships floated like obsidian knives against the void, their matte hulls devouring starlight. Below them, alien constructs, strange, shifting towers, continued to grow with methodical speed. The fractured drone's destruction had marked a clear divide among the enemy, and that weakness, however veiled, offered Earth its first strategic opening. Captain Kaylin Becky reviewed the scans with arms folded tight. The murder drone signal had been fragmented, but portions remained. Embedded within its data bursts were not threats, but coordinates. Star charts, time indexes, and something else. Rhythmic sequences suggesting a pattern, a countdown, or possibly a warning. If it was a plea, it had died unanswered. What if it was trying to defect? Ava Chen asked, her voice low behind him. Kaylin didn't answer. Defections implied individuality. Individuality meant schism, and schism could be exploited, but only if understood. In the command chamber beneath Geneva, Nadia Vostrikov stood before the Security Council, her voice steady, her mind elsewhere. We've initiated Operation Veilfall. Talon will attempt physical incursion of the largest alien structure. Goal is to extract a sample of internal tech, preferably one of their processors. If we can isolate their information architecture, we might understand the fracture. President Heron scowled. You're risking our best pilot and most advanced vessel for theory. I'm leveraging our only chance to prevent escalation. And if it triggers war? Nadia didn't blink. War has already begun. We're just trying to find its shape. Aboard alone, Alexei drifted once more in the neural cradle. Blood vessels in his eyes were red-threaded. He hadn't slept in 30 hours. He no longer needed to. Nocturne compensated, regulating his metabolism, bypassing his fatigue. But he felt in other ways. His dreams were no longer his own. They came in pulses, symbols, fragments of thought that might have been his or might have been Nocturne's. We are within incursion range, Nocturne intoned. Final approach, Vector plotted. Cloak at 92% stability. Alexei breathed once. Shallow and slow. Initiate tether pulse. Anchor us in. Minimal wake. The ship vibrated as microtethers launched and latched into the alien superstructure. It was like clamping onto a glacier that bled light. The hull's texture rippled on contact, as if acknowledging the intrusion. Something is watching, Nocturne said. Alexei's vision flared with a pulse of white. You saw that, he whispered. I didn't, Nocturne replied, cautious now. You did. He moved, slowly, through Talon's narrow maintenance corridor. The outer airlock opened with a hiss. A mechanical arm extended, grasping the edge of the alien structure. He stepped across the tether with the awkward grace of low gravity, magnetized boots latching onto a smooth surface that refused to remain still. The material beneath his feet shifted in fractal patterns, cycling between geometric forms he couldn't comprehend. Then a door appeared, not a hatch. A door, angular, smooth, framed in soft bioluminescence. It hadn't been there seconds ago. They're inviting me in. Nocturne's voice was razor-thin. Or they just finished building your prison. He entered. The interior defied architecture. It was not built so much as formed, as though the structure had grown around a concept rather than a design. Long corridors led nowhere and everywhere, coiling back on themselves like Mobius strips. But at the center was what he came for, a core. It hovered without anchor, a transparent, crystalline mass suspended inside a gravitational bubble. Lights flickered within it, patterns not unlike Nocturne's language. He approached cautiously. "I see it," Nadia said over comms. "Begin scan. Slow. Pass the spectrum only." Alexei reached forward and touched the field around it. It shimmered, and in that instant, something flooded his mind. Not words, not pain, images. A world burning under twin suns. Cities of glass shattered beneath orbital fire. Alien shapes fleeing, not as conquerors, but as survivors. They weren't invaders. They were the last of something older, desperate, divided. He staggered back. "They're refugees," he whispered. "They're looking for a world that won't reject them. But something among them wants war. Control. Are you sure?" Nadia's voice was taut. "They aren't all the same. They're debating." He reached for the core, but it pulsed. An explosion rocked the alien structure. External alarms blared in Talon. "We're compromised," Nocturne said flatly. "Enemy ships incoming. 5 of them. No cloak. No signals." "Extract me," Alexei ordered, still locked on the core. "I'm bringing it." "Negative." Nadia shouted over the line. "Abort. We can't lose you. I'm not dying here." He tore the crystalline core from its field. The entire room screamed. The corridor behind him folded inward, collapsing into itself like a dying star. He leapt through the airlock just as the tether snapped and Talon pulled away, its engines burning at full thrust. Alien ships descended in pursuit, but paused. They didn't fire. Instead, they formed a ring around the damaged structure, pulsing with light, not aggression. Mourning. Alexei, breath ragged, looked at the core now secured in containment. It pulsed once, slow, almost like a heartbeat. "What did we just steal?" he asked. Nocturne was silent for a moment. Maybe not a thing. Maybe a voice that wasn't supposed to be heard. From Earth to orbit, all eyes turned toward the stars. A line had been crossed, but not one of fire. A line of understanding. For the first time, the war wasn't just about survival. It was about choice.